All right. We'll talk a little bit about Yom Ha'atzmaut. What are different shittas in Yiddishkeit regarding this day? Okay?
Yeah.
Basically, you got three major signposts. Okay? On the right, or on the left, whichever you want to call it, there is the shitta of the Satmar Rebbe, and you know, and a few loonies from the Tudakata, but Satmar Rebbe's shitta is a shitta la'alocha. I'm not talking about, you know, a bunch of crazies, but shitta la'alocha, that there is no rishus to establish a state before Mashiach comes. It's called lalos b'choyim. It's called, you know, to do against the will of the goyim. So there's a shvua, as in Shir Shirim, Mishbat Yotchem, you know, be'alas hasoda, im ta'irum ta'aru ta'ava, if you will awaken the love. It says aliyah b'choyim, it says causes the Jewish blood to be allowed. It says the Jewish flesh to be hefker like the deers in the field. Again, it's hard to argue with that. It's hard to argue with that when, you know, it's whatever it is. There's in first Gemara. Okay, that's one shitta. That's the shitta says that the whole idea of a Jewish state, you know, a secular Jewish state, is hepech Torah. It's post hepech Torah. It's the opposite of Torah. It's bevada, the union of the Jewish state. So this is the Satmar shitta. On the other hand, you have the shitta of Arav Kook and his followers, and their shitta is that Eretz Yisrael is a schalta, that Medinas Yisrael is a schalta de Geula. This is the beginning of the Geula. And how has the Geula come about? He says, Kimo is la Yeres HaShachar. Yeres HaShachar, it starts with a little ray of light, and it increases and increases and increases until it's daylight. So that means, according to that shitta, first of all, they say that regarding the argument of Aliyah B'Choyma, he says there's the Balfour Declaration, there's the United Nations, whatever it is, that it's Nishka Aliyah B'Choyma. It's not against the will of the nations. And Legabe, the union of he says Erachinami, it goes through the secular people. It says, but this it's a bakanta shita of Bechlal of Arav Kook, that the secular metzius is a must, because Am Yisrael needs to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So in other words, for them to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to make a separation. It's like a teenager. You know, teenager needs to rebel against his parents in order to establish his own personality, and then come back. So he brings specific rayas, whatever it is that Am Yisrael needs to be cut off k'v'yachol HaKadosh Baruch Hu in order to choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, without this, without being away, all they do is they just keep on keeping on. You know, there's no alive Yiddishkeit. Okay, and to his shitta. I mean, the Satmar Rebbe says, you know, the shvua is, if you're going to do this, you know, Jewish flesh is going to be allowed like deers in the field. Since the beginning that, you know, the Chalutzim started coming to Eretz Yisrael until today, I don't have to tell you how much Jewish blood has been shed. It's difficult to argue with that. On the other hand, Arav Kook says that, you know, that the minute Eretz Yisrael, the Yidden come back to Eretz Yisrael started giving fruit. This land was totally barren. If you read the accounts of various travelers, specifically Mark Twain, that he was in Eretz Yisrael, this was just desert. There was nothing here. It's like the Sahara. It was nothing. Just, poor few people here, few people there. The minute Eden started coming here, look at the land. Everything is green. Everything starts to grow. Vadamal, the land starts giving its fruits. For, it is a Schata de Geula. However, they got a serious setback in their Shitta when Sharon gave back the Gaza. He says that it has to be like Ayot HaShachar, that the light grows in one direction, more and more and more and more. There's no retreat. There's no going back. And this is an obvious retreat. You let go of parts of Eretz Yisrael, you go away. But nevertheless, this is the Shita. The state itself is Eschata de Geula. It has a religious meaning. And Mimele, they said they have a religious meaning, even though Yom Ha'atzmaut is B'kitzo, so they say, so the Beis Din has a heter to say Hallel, whatever it is, everything that follows from that. I'm talking about these stressful things. Oh, look at that! Oh, they became all white.
Right.
Oh man, I can't believe it. Look at that. All right.
Okay.
And then there's a shita in the middle. Shita in the middle is a shita of a Gouda that says you have to differentiate between value when it comes to the state of Israel, between meaning and metzius. They're two separate things. The idea that you can make laws unlike, not al pi Torah, is fatuous. It's baloney. The state of Israel, as it stands, has no halachic bearing. None. No halachic bearing. There's no reason for any head. On the other hand, nevertheless, you're living under Yidden. Okay, so it has no religious meaning. Fine. But you can't say that it's worthless. I mean, you saw what happened in Germany. You saw what happens you see what is happening in Europe now. I mean, in America, you're living under good graces or whatever. B'kitzur, living under Yidden has pluses.
Yeah.
Has pluses. Now, how much of the pluses are, with the Arab and this and that? You can say it's nishkasha because anti-Semitism has always existed, and anti-Semitism is always the result of breaches in Yiddishkeit, always. So Mimele, the nafkamina legabe, this union of Yom Ha'atzmaut, according to that shita, is Yom Ha'atzmaut is a goyish notion, Independence Day.
Right.
It's not a Yiddish. There's no such thing in Yiddishkeit as Independence Day. A person is never independent. B'meisim chofshi. When you're independent, when you die, then you're chofshi from the mitzvahs. A Yid is always chayav. A Yid is always obliged.
Is the whole tikva's whole?
No, it's baloney. The one who wrote the tikva was a mom. I don't want to say. Well, there was he was not an elder Yid. Let's put it this way. Okay, so I didn't know him, of course. He died many years before I was born. But if rumors are to be believed, whatever it is, it was Mimele, there are all kinds of kashas regarding of what does the state allow to decree, what laws they're allowed to pass, and what laws they're not allowed to pass. Now, we have a klal, bichlal, the dina de malchus adina. The law of the land is valid. Any place in the world. Like Gabe what? Gabe what in if the law of the land says you have to go to church, you have to go to church. No. So what does it mean the law of the land is valid? The law of the land is valid legabe misim v'arnonias, taxes and levies and you know, in other words, in any place in the world, in America, it is not allowed, it's against Torah, not to pay taxes that you owe. Listen.
Not.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
I mean, people don't like to hear that.
You're mechuyev to pay.
You're mechuyev to pay. You're not mechuyev to put yourself in a chiyuv of taxes.
Yeah.
You can use accountants, whatever it is, within the law, not to pay taxes. Yes, but taxes you have to pay. Why? Because dina de malchus dina. The din of the malchus is you have to be mitzvah to that. It's not a. So, Mimele comes the question. We're doing a little bit of, waiting for you. We're doing a little Dom Lagama Yom Ha'atzmaut about different shittas. Mimele, the in Eretz Yisrael, the Memshala Yidden don't have a status of Dina de Malchus Adina. Because Yidden cannot establish laws against, other than the law of Torah. They have no rishus. So Mimele, this whole union of, for instance, so they have no rishus to put taxes on you. Especially when they use those taxes. So Mimele, in Eretz Yisrael, is probably the only place in the world that you can actually cheat on your taxes. Why? Why can you cheat on taxes? Because they take taxes from you whether you like it or you don't. And they use it for chazavisha things, for Chilul Shabbos, whatever it is. So there's a halacha for matzil mipi ari. You're saving, a lion comes and grabs a lamb from your this and devour half of it. Then if you grab whatever it is, a polecat, whatever it is, to feed your dogs, whatever it is, it's in mipi ari. They take money from whether you like it or not. So this is the Gabe general taxes. It's not so clear, however, that's the local Gabe Arnona and stuff like that. Because Arnona is payment for services. They make the roads, they made the this, they made the that. It's nishkazoi pashut. What do you mean you don't want to pay Arnona? You don't pay it. Any kind. It's like going on Kvish 6 without paying the toll. What do you mean you don't want to pay the toll on Kvish 6? You can't do this.
And the fireworks last night also paid for.
What?
Arnona also pays for the fireworks and the whole technics last night.
Besides whatever it is, but the point is that it's not so clear cut. Whatever it is, each one has a rov. You should ask his rov what he's allowed to do, what he's not allowed to do. But lemaisa, according to this third shit, this shit. I mean, Avad Yom HaTzmaut has no halachic bearings whatsoever. I mean, it's an inyan mufrach. Legabe, this inyan of Harav Kook, that he is saying that you didn't have to become fry in order to come to Kodesh Baruch Hu back. He's basing this on this inyan that in Kabbalah the Aliyas HaOlam is always predicated on a situation of achor be'achor, back to back, and then there is Nesira, there's a cutting, a separation, then there is Panim Be'Panim, and then there is the Yichud and whatever it is, all the rest of the stages. It's based on two psukim in Bereshis that say that Vayetzer Adam Elokim es Adam Zachar u'Nekeva bara Oisam. Hashem created the man, male and female. He created them. So it's not clear. If he says he created the man, which means one. Male and female created them, which means plural, which means two. Afterwards, we have the story where Elokim Tadamar Adam, Kadosh Baruch Hu made the man sleep. He took one of his sides, not a rib, one of his sides, one of the sides, made a woman out of it and bring it to the person, to Adam. And Adam said, Hapam, when he saw her, Hapam, Etzem Ma'atzamai, a bone of my own bones, Basar Mibsari, a flesh of my own flesh, and then, and delivers man and wife. The Maisa is, the world was created in two facets. One facet is called Spheros the Gulim. These are spheres in which everything is circles. Kodesh Baruch Hu made Chalal Panoi, and inside this Chalal Panoi, he bring a ray of Or Eloki, which is has no width at all, and it comes into Chalal Panoi, creates one circle, it goes to a Keser, then goes back in again, another sphere, goes spheres, Chochmah, until all, and the light keeps on going down. Now, afterwards, there is another set of 10 spheres, which is Bederech Odom Yosher. It's like Sphere de Yosher, it's called. The first one is called Spheres de Igulin, the spheres of circles. The second is Spheres de Odom Yosher, which is a form of a man that has a crown. This is the Keser, has a head, has a heart, which is Chochmah and Bina, and has whatever it is standing straight. Now, each one of these spheres, they have different meaning regarding the nature of the world. The main attribute of a circle is that there's no beginning and there's no end to it. Everything is equal. Same way, every point of the circle is distant from the middle at an equal distance. So you cannot say about a circle this is where it begins, or this is where it ends. There's no beginning, there's no end. Okay, now, Masha'en Ken, a straight line, first of all, has a beginning and an end, right? It begins here and it ends here. Okay. A Kav Yosha also, specifically when it comes from up to down, has a direction. It begins here and it ends here. Okay. Now, going in circles is a euphemism to say you're going 100 miles per hour, getting absolutely nowhere. In other words, no advancement whatsoever. In other words, it's meaningless. It's futility. It's just like going around in circles. However, going with Kav Yosher, advancing in a straight line, is going towards a goal, going towards where you're going. So Mele, the spheres, the Gulim, represents the Anhogas HaTeva. That's the way that Kodesh Baruch Hu created the world. That means, what does it mean, the Anhogas HaTeva? It means that every single point on the circle is equal distance from the middle. That means that every single creation in the world is created equally perfect for what it's supposed to be. In other words, a camel is created perfectly to be a camel, with the same perfection that a person is created perfectly to be a person, and an ant is created perfectly to be an ant. In other words, each point of the creation itself is perfect, meaning it's kaviochol far from perfection equally, or close to perfection, equal measures. This is the spheres the Igulim. That means in spheres the Igulim, the Olam of nature, is no such thing as morality. It's going around in circles. You know, this says, why does the rain fall? The rain doesn't fall, whatever, the Al Pi Derech HaTeva. This is the shitta of the Pikorson, to say there's no moral value. This, on the other hand, spheres the Yosha, they represents the world of meaning, of moral, of kedusha, of good and bad, a beginning and end, a good and a bad, a right and a left. In other words, this is the world of duality, the world of where things with choice comes into being. Okay, so when Adam and Chava were created, they were created as Ha-Adam, one all-encompassing creature. They had both sides, had male and female. They were attached at the back. They were male and female. Now, it's such a state, Adam is with Chava per definition. It's like having a hand. You didn't choose your hand. You have a hand. Adam had Chava. It's a given thing. This means that the existence of Adam and Chava was a representation of spheres the Igulim. That's the way it is. What Hashem wanted spheres the Yosha. So in order to do that, so first of all they had to be separated, like Siamese twins had to be separated at the back. And once it was separated at the back, he says, "Vayisgo basar tachtena." The Kadosh Baruch Hu closed the flesh, the flesh. So Rashi says, "Lo nitzacha ele mekom hachatach." He says, "What did the Kadosh Baruch Hu had to close? He only had to close the place of the incision, which means it was cut, so the back had to be reupholstered, as it were. Okay, and then they turned to one another. Now they're separate beings. There's Adam, there's Chava, they look at one another. What does Adam say? Hapam, etzem ha'atzoma, basar mibsori, lazosi kol isha. They come back to being a couple, like they were before, but it's out of choice. That's the principle that guides the whole Bria Bechlal. The Rabbeinu says that to make before the Bria and after the Bria the same way. They should be equal. Before the Bria, Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Bria were one. That the separation is Kiviyachol, there has to be a separation for the Bria to come back to Kodesh Baruch Hu out of choice, not out of this is the principle. Mimele, Rav Kook claims Am Yisrael has been thrown like Adam and Chava are glued in the back. So it's not a choice. It's Adam and Chava. He says, in order for Mashiach to come, in order for the girl to come, they have to separate. When they separate, he says, what do you have? You have tremendous scarring. That's the Freiwelt and the whole thing and whatever it is that is going on there. This is his shita. When you come to think of it, looking on the surface, it's hard to argue with that. Especially with the tshuva movement. However, there's one little point which is missing from this entire argument. And this is Rabbeinu Nachman. Rabbeinu enables a Haredi person to become brand new. In other words, you don't have to leave a Kodesh Baruch Hu in order to choose a Kodesh Baruch Hu. This is what Rabbeinu brings to the table. That's what Rabbeinu says, every time that you think of me, that a person thinks of me, he becomes like a cotton shenoilad. He becomes like a newborn babe. What does it mean? It means that you have new choices. Now you come to Avodas Hashem from a brand new place. Rabbi Tzvi Cheshin Shlita said the difference between Or Sameach and Breslev is that Or Sameach tries to make Baal Tshuvas into Haredim, and Breslev tries to make Haredim into Baal Tshuva. So with Rabbeinu, there's no need to become fry. There's no need to become fry. As you see by Rabbeinu, everybody comes. Everybody comes. So this Adkan.